He really
Nope.
is.
Not a green screen. It's just a virtual background in my living room.
We are live on YouTube. We do still have 2 minutes, so we'll give councillors a few minutes. Hey, Kurt. And Alana's here now as well. Excellent. Everyone is here. So we'll just give about 7 o'clock on the dot. Perfect. We can call to order. I do not believe there were any changes to the agenda that was presented. Does anyone have any? None. All right. We'll move on. Declaration of conflict of interest or pecuniary interest. Again, seeing none. All right. Delegations. Presentations or petitions. We did receive the RCMP report, but I do not see Acting Detachment Commander Bishop on the line. Were there any questions from council that I can pass on, or I can reach out and ask him to be here on Wednesday night if that's better? SAO Hood, did you have any update from them?
No, I did not, and they're not in the waiting room.
Okay, thank you. All right, so council, then I'll look to you. Would you like to ask any questions this evening? Would you like me to ask them to attend on Wednesday? I will take your direction.
I don't have any questions for the report.
Not seeing any hands raised. All right, so we can leave it then. Of course, if anything does come up, please let me know. On to public question period. SAO Hood, have we received anything?
I have not received anything.
Okay, thank you. And adoption of the minutes of the April 26th and 28th, 2021 council meeting. Any questions or comments on these minutes? I see none. All right. On to new business. Item 8.1, the closure of town facilities for an all-staff meeting. Request for council decision is presented, I believe, by the SAO. Grant, did you want to speak to the item?
Actually, maybe I'll ask the mayor if she wants to go back and ask about item 7.1, the action item.
Thank you. Just skipped it all together. Yes, let's do that. We'll go back to item 7.1, the action items list. Were there any questions from council this evening? And seeing none. All right, then I will move forward to 8.1, the town facilities closure for an all staff meeting, and hand it over to SAO Hood.
Thanks, Mayor Kulikowski. This is basically nothing really new. We just, due to the COVID, we haven't had them. And it is something that's come out of the operational review to get back and doing the staff meetings. Staff have indicated that they feel they would like to, where possible, have them. So with the availability now, with no ice in the arena, we can use the arena for the staff meeting. By closing the facilities for the 2 hours in the morning allows us to, that all staff then can attend without having to worry to cover front desks, et cetera, et cetera. So that is our request. We have done it in the past, and we are looking at doing it probably twice a year, if not maybe even 4 times a year, but depending on the situation. But certainly since this it has been a long time since we have had a staff meeting. We feel that the opportunity should be there for all staff to attend.
Okay, great. Any questions from council on this item? None. All right, thank you. We will move on to item 8.2, the Community Recreation Sport Funding Agreement. This is a, it's an agreement that we have with MACA, which I believe is an annual agreement. SAO Hood, I again will hand over to you if you had any additions to the doc.
Not really. Like I said, it's you are correct, and it's an annual one that we get that council just is, as far as the funding agreement, has to be through a motion from council so that they're aware of it. It's the $43,000 hasn't changed in the 11 years I've been here. It's a pretty standard one. Unfortunately, Dr. Samura could not be here tonight due to a family emergency, but I'd be happy if anybody has any questions on it.
Okay, great. And were there any questions from council? Seeing none. All right, thank you very much. On to 8.3, the document or motion to support the promotion of the 2021 census. This is an item that I received by mail, and I know that in the past we have done a similar recommendation, basically just stating that as the town of Inuvik, we do support the census and we encourage our residents to participate. So with that, we'll open to any questions or comments from council. Councillor Wood.
Very briefly, I guess the importance of this for the town of Inuvik is that's what our funding is based on for the NWT. So it's quite important for all the residents to do it. This year we can do it online, which I did, and it's a very simple form. So it took me probably 4 minutes to do the whole thing. So anyway, I encourage us to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. And yeah, I was able to do it as well. The census person came to my door at home, gave me my code, which is a piece of paper in a plastic bag, went to my computer, and was very easy to file my census. So any other questions from anyone? Seeing none. All right, on to 9.1. This is second reading of the licensed premises bylaw. I guess I would hand over to SEO Hood here if there's anything to be explained. Second reading, I know that it says that we had sent to the minister. Do we have to wait for a response from them, or what is our process? Thank you.
No, we don't have to wait, as far as we know, wait for a response. It's just indicating to them. Doing it when we did this originally 4 years ago, we did not receive a response from them. So I think the idea is if there was an issue with it, then they would respond. So the next steps will be after second reading, then we will do a public notice regarding it and see what feedback we get regarding that. We do not have to hold a public hearing or anything like that. We just have to give public notice now and then wait 30 days, come back with third reading, and provide council with any of the input that we've read if we've received any public input on it. And then should it get third reading, then in 30, it becomes effective 30 days after that.
All right, thank you, SEO Hood. Were there any questions on second reading from council? Councillor Wood.
A short question, if it does come to a public meeting, how are we going to do it?
There is no requirement to have a public meeting.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, so is it an opportunity then for people to submit like letters, or how, I guess, just what does it look like for residents if they do want to have their say on it?
They can send the information in as part as when we do the public notice on it. Then we'll have a way that they can submit their feedback to me, and then I can pass that on as part of when we get into the third reading.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Barlock.
Thank you. I guess it's not broadly public knowledge yet, perhaps, but has there been any feedback to date so far on this? Just curious.
I have not received anything.
Yeah, I figured not too many people are probably aware of it quite yet, but okay, just curious.
It was in the drum after our council meeting, but again, I haven't received anything either, so we shall see. All right, any further questions on the item? Seeing none. On to 9.2, the all-terrain vehicle bylaw. My understanding is most of the changes here are to allow for electric bikes or e-bikes to ride the roads of Inuvik. I know that Peace Officer Waghorn and Chief Hammond were working on this item. So Chief Hammond is on the call if there are any questions, or SAO Hood. I just need to run to the printer really quick. So Grant, maybe I'll just hand over for you for a second and I'll be right back.
Thank you, Mayor Kulkowski. Yes, so this is has requests come in from the Municipal Enforcement Department based on feedback that they have received from the citizens, as there are a number, I guess, of these electric bicycles. The purpose of the changing in the bylaw is because is defining where something needs to be either licensed, et cetera, what type of licensing you need for it, versus whether it's a bicycle, where therefore you do not need the licensing. So that's trying to clarify that in this bylaw and make those definitions clear, so people know what needs a license and what doesn't.
Grant, if
Thank
I
you.
could add something to it, this also has an impact on where electric bicycles would be able to go. For instance, ATVs, there's prohibited streets. Whereas with an e-bike, for instance, if somebody wanted to go to pick up their mail and they're using the e-bike, they can use Mackenzie, versus an ATV wouldn't be able to go on Mackenzie. So that was the other question with regard to this. In terms of the definitions that you're talking about, if you take a look at the bylaw, we specifically almost have a cutoff in terms of if it's based on power and speed. So if it's below, I don't have it right in front of me, but if it's below 30 kilometers an hour, it's not considered an ATV. If it's below a certain threshold for power, it's not considered an ATV. And then if it is above that, it's considered an ATV with all of those prohibitions, as well as licensing and registration requirements. If it's below that, it won't require that, and it won't be prohibited from being on all of the streets. So that's really the two defining factors of this bylaw and the changes to that bylaw.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, it's 32 kilometers an hour is the speed and 500 watts is the power threshold.
That is correct.
Great, thank you for those clarifications. Any questions from council? Councillor Wood, and then Deputy Mayor Barlow.
One, it's not so much the format of the changes to the bylaw to allow for the motorized bicycles. It's the factoring in of the helmets and the exemption for elders. Quite frankly, I don't agree that elders should be exempt from a helmet bylaw. I mean, the same as kids and anybody else riding a motorized bicycle. You can get hurt pretty bad if you have a fall on one of those and hit your head. I mean, I thought we were supposed to protect our elders, not leave them open to injury or that type of thing. Anyway, I just don't agree with elders being exempt from that. And as far as hunters and trappers, that they're exempt from the helmet bylaw to go hunting and trapping. I don't think there'd be an exemption for motorized bicycles. It'd be pretty hard to go hunting and trapping with one of those. But anyway, like I say, I just disagree with elders being exempt.
All right, thank you, Councillor Wood. Deputy Mayor Barlow, and then Councillor Wainman.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I'm just curious, do we actually have any electric motorized cycles in town yet? I haven't seen any myself, but is there a few kicking around?
We're waiting to be able to use them.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I guess with respect to Councillor Wood's comments, I don't necessarily see the exemption for the elders as a huge deal. It doesn't mean they can't use it if they don't want to. They can choose to use one if they would. And I think anyone who's sensible, which probably doesn't include me, would use a helmet. So I don't necessarily think it's a huge deal to have an exemption for elders, because if you have an elder who really doesn't want to use one, then it may become an issue at that point. But anyone who wants to use one can definitely choose to do so, even if they are exempted from the requirement for it.
Great, thank you. Councillor Wainman?
Do we know how many bikes are really in town? Seems like there's only like 2 or 3. We're gonna waste our time over all the little bike bylaw on an electric bike. Like, there's not very many in town. I find it pretty odd.
This is becoming more of a common issue down south. If you recall, just last week, Whitehorse actually had an article in the Whitehorse paper with regard to more and more people using it and their need to clarify it. I don't think it's a waste of time. The mere fact that we were asked by individuals who were going to be using them, it's simply a matter of recognizing that they're out there and dealing with it now, before all of a sudden now everybody's going to be having one and we have no clear direction on whether or not they require insurance or licensing, or can they go on roads or not. This is just simply a practice of being ahead of the curve rather than having to respond and be reactive later.
Say there's a potential here too that someone could get into a business of renting these kinds of things at some point in the future. So I think it's worthwhile. It's just an extra clause or two in the bylaw. But
additionally, we are also going to
forward-looking.
be, sorry, we're also going to be doing some public education with regard to what is required for an ATV and, you know, the threshold. So what you do need, what you don't need. For instance, if somebody has a question about a kid's motorcycle or a kid's snowmobile, we'll actually have that clarification as part of our public education campaign as well, to try to alleviate some of those questions and clarify it for our citizens.
Thank you. Councillor Wainman, did you have any follow-up? No.
No.
Okay. All right. Any other questions then on the bylaw? Or the bylaw amendments, I guess. None. All right. We can move on then to item number 10, or department head reports. Excuse me. The first report is the planning and development report. Are there any questions or comments from council here? See none. On to 10.2, the public services report. Questions or comments? No. 10.3, the SAO's report. Questions, comments? Deputy Mayor Bartlett.
Great, thank you. Just noting the meeting with the general manager of Inuvik Gas. Given that the IESP seems to be moving ahead, is it something that we as a council maybe want to open up discussions again internally on what we had been talking about a few years ago with respect to the Inuvik Gas and the distribution system in town? If that IESP goes ahead and then there is now a reliable source of natural gas coming to the community, it may change the calculations on that particular issue. So wonder if we, now that there's a project in motion, which may have some stuff happening as early as this summer, do we want to maybe start talking about it again a bit internally?
I think just because of the confidentiality of all those numbers and that kind of conversation, I can ask SAO Hood to provide council an update in camera one day, or yeah.
That's exactly what I had in mind, just to start with some in-camera discussions to talk again as a council on what we think about things now.
We can put something like that together for council for sure. Thank you. Any other questions on the SAO's report? Seeing none. On to the community services report. Questions or comments there? No. On to 10.5, the economic development and tourism report. No. Capital projects report. You will probably have noticed there's been some action on a few items. Deputy Mayor Bartlett, go ahead.
Yeah, just with respect to the town office and fire hall energy upgrades, they completed the environmental study on the siding. Was there anything of note as a result of that environmental study with respect to anything we need to do when that stuff starts happening?
SAO Hood?
Yeah, sorry, my understanding is, and Director Campbell can correct me, but I believe it's the siding has come back with some lead paint issues that we will have to properly remediate and ship south. It's my understanding we won't be able to put it in our solid waste site.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on the capital projects report? Seeing none. All right, on to the protective services report. Questions or comments? All right, and that ends those reports. We do have a couple of information items, the strategic priorities chart and the Aurora College Institute notification of research. We do not, oh, sorry, council concerns. Is there anything to come up under council concerns tonight? Councillor Wood.
Not a concern, but I'd like to take the opportunity to congratulate Eleanor Young on her appointment as president of the Housing Corporation. I think it's a positive move for the corporation, and I'm sure she'll do a great job.
Great, thank you, Clarence. Anything further under concerns? Councillor Salaki.
I think earlier today, some of the bylaws that are up for discussion were posted online, and I had someone approach me and ask about the unsightly property bylaw. In regards to 6.0, there's new wording as to the town has permission to go in and do some work, and they've requested us to look into what that could look like and what kind of timelines we could be looking at. I know we've all kind of discussed some of the buildings in town, but it was pointed out to me that the one on Mackenzie and Union, just by the Lighthouse Church, has been derelict for about 30 years. I don't know the timeline. I haven't been there that long, so correct me if that's wrong, but they were hoping that there could be some more aggressive wording for the actual timelines of when these buildings have been slated as these are now derelict. We are not collecting anything. How can we make our community look better by getting rid of some of these buildings?
Okay, thank you. Would you mind also putting those in an email to myself so that I can share the ideas with SAO Hood?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And anything further under concerns this evening? Seeing none.
Right.
Oh, Councillor Salaki, go ahead.
It's not really a concern, but I think a lot of people saw the really great news about the pool and the funding that we're going to receive to get that done, and people are really excited. And there's been a little bit of speculation. And is there anything like concrete, sorry for the pun, but as to actual timelines that people can get a little more excited about when that pool is going to be opened?
I don't know if you'll recall at our last meeting, the SAO Hood and Director Campbell and the team had a meeting upcoming, and then they were going to work on putting out a public update, which I believe will be coming out this week, but I will hand it over to SAO Hood to correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Kulkowski. Yeah, so it'll be something coming out this week. We just had to finalize, and actually this just today clarified a few items with the pool people, I guess you could say, are that specialize in the pools. We are looking at COVID has thrown its ugly head into this as well, as far as getting there's certain supplies. It's one of the ones, plastic items and injection molding and things like that has been drastically hit in the US because of COVID, and also the Texas electricity issue that they had earlier. So therefore, there are a few items that we are working on trying to get, but I would say we are looking at least September. I wouldn't want to guess at anything earlier than that. If we can certainly doing it, but we are full steam ahead in talking with the suppliers today, or the master pool company, as far as they are in the process of ordering everything that needs to be done. We are waiting on one test that has to be completed. And again, due to issues with COVID, that test has been delayed. And so some areas can't move forward until that is completed. And we are working as hard as we can to be able to accomplish that.
That's really good news. But I think one of the other questions they had too, which I just recalled, as you said, about supply concerns, is there has been recent news that there's a global chlorine shortage, and they were wondering if there's a lovely stockpile in Inuvik since the pool's been closed.
Off the top of my head, I can't really answer that. I have to check with the people at the pool. And I think it's the chlorine pucks, and I don't know if that's the type that we use, or if it's just a different. Not that we don't use chlorine gas, obviously, but for that, but for the pool. So my understanding is the chlorine, the puck set for personal pools and that. And we may use it, get a different type of source, but I'm not sure.
I can
I'll look
answer
to-
that.
Oh, there we go.
Yes, we use chlorine pucks at the pool. We
Okay.
do have a stockpile, but we are going to need them for when we go back into operations. So we will be hoarding our stockpile of pucks.
Well, I think that's what people were hoping, was that you had done that. So that's wonderful news that you'd hoarded that. So when it is ready to go, we aren't stuck because the rest of the supply chain has broken down. So that's good, really good news.
Great, thank you. Anything further then under council concerns? See none. All right, we do not have in camera tonight, so we can adjourn. We'll meet back here at 7